Hello everyone, and welcome back to Attorneys React, where all your favorite attorneys react to all the stupid that happens in our crazy legal world. I'm Uncivil Law, and today we're here to respond to a TikTok video of what seems to be some kind of roadside police encounter. So we're going to take a look at this video and try to see who might be right, who might be wrong. Let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay, so right at the beginning, I will note that this TikTok video has a fairly long description, which I will read. It says, quote, "At a family party, my brother went out to get his newborn baby's bassinet carrier and diaper bag when a cop was driving by and said he smelled weed. He then detained my brother, searched his car and found nothing, then took his ID to see if anything was on him. Lucky my brother has nothing against you. Mind you, we were in the country, 5 houses all around with big yards, and nothing was found on my brother or his car. Didn't even apologize for the misjudgment or assumption. When we asked the captain who to call to complain against the Pacific officer, he became rude and hostile, threatened to arrest my brother after releasing him for asking a question." And this apparently is happening in Bexar County, Texas. We see from this fairly long description of what they say is happening. At the start, we see a police officer already apparently interacting in some way. So we don't really see how this thing all starts. So we'll try to see what we can determine based on the video and see if we can determine who might be right in this encounter.
Okay, so you're putting your hands on me for a suspicion? You don't have no suspicion.
Sit down. Everybody back up.
Pushing me.
I need everybody back.
Man,
everybody get back. Everybody back.
You put your
now.
away right now, man.
Now.
Get back. Who are you? Call your supervisor.
Sit down.
I want your badge number. Call your supervisor.
Oh, no.
Sit down.
Stop pushing on me.
Jonathan, hey,
Call your supervisor.
Jonathan.
Go on the ground. Because my hands are behind my back.
All right, so this individual already seems to be in handcuffs. At this point of the interaction, it's unclear if he's under arrest or not. The courts, in looking at such things, have determined that merely being in handcuffs doesn't alone necessarily make arrest. So we could actually parse that out. But there seems to be at least a detention. That seems to be clear. The officer seems to be somewhat surrounded by other people and seems to be alone. So obviously he's a little bit potentially concerned about his safety. He's concerned about other people maybe interacting with him in some way. This individual appears to be resisting him and acting in ways that seem to be not necessarily appropriate. You know, I can't speak to what happened at the start of this encounter. So based on what we see at the tape, it's a little hard to adjudicate who's in the right by itself. But based on what we can see at the tape, the officer's concerns are warranted. The person seems to be detained. He seems to be trying to gain control of the situation, trying to get people to back up, a little bit concerned about his physical safety. So based on the tape alone, it seems like the officer is acting properly. Let's watch more and see if we can change our minds or gain more information.
Oh, you think you're a big man? You think you're somebody?
Sit down.
Man, you ain't.
Hey, brother,
Jonathan.
can I help you calm him down?
Jonathan.
Because I don't want it to
I literally
escalate.
did nothing.
Can I help?
No, I know you were coming to get the diaper bag.
Get a sergeant out here. Can I help you
Supervisor
contain?
17 times. Upton County. Supervisor 18. Supervisor 19.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will ask for a supervisor in terms of policy. That depends on sort of how that happens. But even as a matter of policy, if the cops have a policy to send a supervisor, I'm aware of no law that requires that anywhere. Of course, it depends on the supervisor being available, you know, in order to be dispatched. Maybe the supervisor's already off somewhere else on some other call, which is one of the reasons, incidentally, you might not be entitled to a supervisor, because maybe there isn't one at this particular moment. Maybe the supervisor's doing something else at that moment. So the idea that he asked for a supervisor, okay, you can ask for a lot of things, but you're not necessarily entitled to it. People seem to think that they're entitled to anything they ask for sometimes. That's not really how that works.
I understand to sit in your cop car, I have to put my feet in first. So can I turn around? How can I push back? Push back. I want to fall back on my arms. No, push back. You can I have to put my foot in. Yes, thank you. Calm yourself. You had to push me. You have to shove me into a car?
You're not listening though.
You're not listening.
Okay.
I asked for your supervisor. It's the law for you to call your supervisor when I request.
Oh, it's the law. Okay, I'm sure you're going to cite a relevant code section anytime now. I'm pretty sure that neither the state of Texas nor any other state has passed a law that requires officers to just call a supervisor anytime anyone is asked for. That seems like something states would not write into their law. That seems unlikely.
Okay.
Okay, what?
Mario.
Hey, you weren't even out here, okay?
No, I'm his mom.
I just want to talk to you.
Yeah, you don't.
Okay, so as I'm driving by, I smell marijuana.
How do you smell marijuana in the country?
I can smell it.
That's a good question, actually.
How do you smell marijuana in the country? I imagine you smell marijuana in the country the same way you would anywhere. Marijuana does have a fairly pungent smell. So, you know, if marijuana has been smoked or is in high quantities, it tends to go into the air. Also, because there's less other things around, there might be less other smells. You know, if you're in the middle of a city, for example, there might be trash smells, there might be smells from just people walking around. There might be all kinds of smells. So I wouldn't necessarily think that in the country, marijuana would be harder necessarily to smell. There might be less people with marijuana, but if marijuana's around, I would imagine, depending on the circumstances, yeah, you could smell it in the country just the same you could anywhere else. I don't know why in the country is a defense to you can't smell marijuana. That seems odd.
No, you're being stupid, and that's what you're being, and you're just a dick with a badge. What is your name? My name is Stacy.
I need everybody back, please.
Why?
Okay, I need everybody back.
It's public. It's public.
I'm sorry?
Even in public, officers are allowed to maintain some control of the situation, right? They are allowed to maintain control for their safety and everyone else. I mean, think about this logically, right? The police come to the middle of a park to arrest someone. They have a valid search warrant, a valid arrest warrant, right? To search this person, arrest this person, whatever, right? Everyone else in the park, of course, has a right to initially be there. But the police, obviously for their own safety and also the safety of the suspect, because they don't know what other people's intentions are or what other situations might be going. Maybe there's someone else who might want to do harm to the suspect. They have every right to maintain a basic minimal barrier. So like, can people back up while I'm trying to work this situation alone is not a request that a police officer would be prevented from making. A court would allow them to have these kind of basic situations in place for their own safety.
It's my scene right now. I need you to step back. Everybody.
Fair enough. It is a scene at the moment.
Get a lot further. Just calm.
Exactly. Please, just look, this is something, it's a simple investigation. That's it.
Fair enough.
Nobody's listening. Nobody's listening. I need everybody to move back. I got a whole bunch of officers coming over here now. You're going to see all this crowd.
911.
Okay,
We're at
I
a
told
family
him.
party.
Okay, but y'all are acting irrational.
We are or you are?
Oh, no, y'all are.
No, you are.
He was getting a diaper bag, sir.
You're having a party for not getting a diaper bag for his
I
son.
smell marijuana.
Shut up, you're
You want to talk?
stupid. Because you're stupid.
Okay, so at this point, the officer seems to be trying to conduct some sort of further investigation, assuming the premise that the officer actually did in fact smell marijuana, right? The officer seems to be responding to this in a way that is at least legally justifiable. Marijuana, unfortunately, is illegal in the great state of Texas. Some cities have legalized as a matter of city policy, but not statewide, right? So I'm gonna go on a hunch and say that in Bexar County, Texas, there is no marijuana standards here. You can just kind of arrest people for it, which may be a reason to legalize it, but that's another discussion for another day. In any case, the officer, at least by his statement, said he smelled marijuana. He found this suspect, apparently, is doing some initial detention, seems like a Terry stop. Not clear he's under arrest, doesn't actually seem to be under arrest, despite the fact he's in the car. Seems to like he's just be a temporary detention on the basis of reasonably articulable suspension. Now he's doing some sort of further investigation, asking people questions, trying to get some further information. Seems like fairly standard police tactics. And also, of course, at the moment, again, it's worth mentioning, he is alone at the moment. So that goes a long way towards the officer's commands for other people to back up, getting people alone, putting this person in the back, and other things like that. He's trying to maintain his own safety. Also called for backup to try to help get the situation a little bit more under control. So is it ideal? No. Is it legal based on what we can see so far? Yes. The officer seems to be acting in a very calm manner at this point. You know, now that he's gained control of the situation and managed to get people back, he's sort of gained control. You know, pulling out the taser is typically considered to be non-lethal force, which would be appropriate if he was attacked. He's trying to, you know, use force escalation in a standard sort of methodology. He had, at the time he pulled the taser, everyone was sort of crowding him. He went for a non-lethal option, so that's fine. Now that the situation's a little bit more under control, he seems to be interacting with this person in a perfectly calm way, engaging in a calm discussion. He doesn't seem to be overly escalating the situation, doesn't seem to be acting irrationally, seems to be acting very professionally. So, you know, it seems to be all right.
I wish you would first grade.
Let me figure it out.
I was gonna say, where's
And everybody's crowded.
Yeah, everyone's crowding, that's fair.
What's going on? But I still want to stop. It's simple.
Okay.
Weed is nothing. It's illegal. But that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, he says he smelled what he smelled, and he says marijuana, weed's illegal. He's correct. It's illegal in the state of Texas. Again, some cities like Austin have said their own city's police are not to enforce this. But of course, state police could enforce it everywhere. He's a sheriff apparently of Bexar County, and that county allows the police to enforce it. He has reasonably articulable suspicion. He is engaging in a standard Terry stop, standard interrogation. Seems like pretty standard, and he's acting within the bounds of the law.
So what do you need, man?
The car seat so my son can sleep in the stroller.
Where is it?
In the front and the back.
Okay.
The car's so small. Am I allowed to get it?
Is this the key?
Yes, the key to the car.
All right, come on.
Are they taking the car?
Obviously, it should go without saying, right, that if the officer really did smell marijuana in relation to the car, then we don't know where marijuana is. And as also should go without saying, people store marijuana, drugs, and everything else all kinds of places. Is marijuana in the diaper bag? It might be. Is marijuana in the car seat? It might be. Right? The officer has secured the scene. He has secured the car, and he's like, can I retrieve something from the car? Well, that might be evidence. So the officer is obviously skeptical for that reason, whether he lets it or not. You know, he doesn't have to while he's trying to figure out what's going on. So he's not being just a jerk by denying getting access to the diaper bag or the car seat, because Lord knows people have kept marijuana and other drugs in stranger places.
He was found down with it.
That's all. Somebody out here was smoking weed.
None of us.
Did you witness it, officer?
He smelled it.
But you understand we have to investigate, right? So we can see.
Did they see him car? No.
I just smelled it.
They haven't searched it yet.
But did you pull him over though?
Okay, so
No. It's only probable cause. It's only probable cause if you pulled him over and you smell it.
Okay, probable cause is not the right standard at the moment. The right standard here is reasonably articulable suspicion, right? That's also the standard for a standard pulling someone over, right? The police don't need probable cause to pull over a car. They need probable cause to search a car. They need reasonably articulable suspicion to do what's called a Terry stop, which also a car would work into. Does he have needed to pull over the car to gain reasonably articulable suspicion? No, he doesn't. He apparently, according to the situation, was driving by and smelled marijuana he believed emanating from the car. That's at least reasonably articulable suspicion, if not probable cause. So he has every right to detain that individual. Oh, you didn't pull him over, so you don't have probable cause. That is not even close to how that works. That's a way to potentially get probable cause, not the only way.
On him. Please know that we are recording and we are going to report this to your person.
Knock yourself out.
Hello, I'm letting you know now you are doing wrong.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing in the car?
You cannot search the car. He can't search the car. If they didn't pull him over.
Okay, that's in the court of law. That's
I know,
not
but they're...
Yeah, if they didn't pull him over, they can't search the car. That's not even close to true, obviously. If they have probable cause, they can search the car. Do they have probable cause? Well, he smelled marijuana apparently emanating from this, which, yeah, that probably is reasonable cause of a crime. So, you know, yeah.
Is anybody smoking that car? Okay. It didn't smell that strong, but it smells. But it was out here somewhere.
It's out here somewhere. Now that's a bit of a problem, right? If the officer didn't smell it coming from the car or coming from a person who immediately came from the car, if he just smelled it out here somewhere, okay, now we're not into probable cause, right? We're now maybe into RES, maybe, right? Do a standard stop, but not to search the car. So if all the officer knows is he smelled it out here somewhere, as opposed to from the car or on a person who had just exited a car, if he doesn't have that, and it's just out here somewhere, well, that search standard is looking a lot more shaky than it was 10 seconds ago.
As soon as you ever left, and I was able to get away from the car, to smell it.
Okay.
So it dissipated once whoever had it walked off.
Maybe it was a car driving by. Also, for the wrong person. Now, you didn't even pull him over. You just drove by.
Yes.
And
No.
you're about to be so famous in about an hour.
And that's your
Okay. Yeah, you're famous over here on Attorney Reacts.
Yeah, whatever. I'm going to show that part too. Found nothing in the car, and now they're searching his ID just to find something, just to save their asses.
The police are entitled during a standard stop to ask for your ID, or more properly to ask for who you are, not necessarily your ID properly. right? If you're driving a car, obviously they can ask for your driver's license because you're driving a car. If not, if they're conducting a lawful stop, they have the right to ask for your name, for example, right? So they have the right to get this information and to verify who he is. So yeah, merely asking for his ID and getting it, well, he has to give his name, address anyway. So, that's not improper. They have the right to do a basic check to make sure he doesn't have any outstanding warrants or anything. That's fine. All right, my friends, so that unfortunately is all the video that is available. So it's a little bit difficult to adjudicate this completely legally because we don't have enough information. What we do have shows the police officer conducting either a detention or possibly arrest, although it's more likely detention, that he's not under arrest. So it seems like we might have reasonably articulable suspicion. But even that's a little bit shaky because the police officer himself said he smelled the marijuana coming from somewhere out here. Now that's not gonna do it, right? You need to be able to determine the marijuana smell came from the car or the person who just came from the car, right? In order to say the marijuana is in the car or on the person of the car in order to get to some sort of probable cause. Now, none of this really matters in a legal sense because all that would really only matter in a suppression hearing, right? If the police conduct an illegal search, what you do is you ask for the evidence to be suppressed, right? So if they had found marijuana, you could ask for a suppression. And then some judge would have to adjudicate whether the police really did have probable cause, which of course would require further testimony from all the relevant parties in order to determine that. But since no evidence was found, there will be no suppression hearing, so it kind of doesn't really matter in some sense. But what we did overall see is a police officer engaging in fairly reasonable professional behavior, except for the underlying motivation to conduct the search and stop, which seems a little bit shaky on Fourth Amendment grounds. So that part, not quite clear. But the police officer overall otherwise did fine, making sure to gain control of the crowd, asking people to back up, getting people one at a time to do the investigation, and so forth and so on. So if you assume that the police officer simply misspoke or was a little unclear and really did smell marijuana coming from the car or the person near the car, then all this seems legal. If you assume the police officer's statement of, "I smelled smoke somewhere in the ether," well, that probable cause is looking a lot more shaky. But overall, well, that's sort of where things sit. So it's a little bit hard to know for sure, but yeah. In any case, I've been Uncivil Law for Attorney Reacts. I hope you enjoyed this surprisingly deep dive Fourth Amendment analysis into this standards stop. And until later, my friends, I hope all is well. Cheers, my friends, and goodbye.
Big verdict.